Welcome back to the Wild Thoughts Pod. I'm your co-host, Afi.
And I'm Kat.
And today we're back with a new episode. Woohoo! Woo! Our topic today is imposter syndrome. We're super excited to talk about this because I feel like a lot of people can relate. Mm-hmm. But before we get into that, of course, drum roll! Question of the week.
I wasn't sure if I had to do the drum roll.
Oh, I don't know. It's fine. We did it.
Okay, question of the week. So we asked everyone, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? And 100% of people said yes. So
this is definitely something we need to talk about.
It's very common and needs to be spoken about because I feel like a lot of people, when they feel this, they kind of feel alone. I feel like they can't talk to anyone about it because they overthink it and all that stuff. But we just want to say right away, everyone experiences imposter syndrome.
Yeah, exactly. And some of you may not even be aware of it. Like I only found out the actual what it was a year ago, maybe. Before then, I had no idea that was even a thing.
Yeah.
I just had a friend be like, "You have imposter syndrome." I was like, "Oh shit!" So maybe you'll relate to this and you'll understand like why you feel the way you do. Mm-hmm. There's like a name for it.
Yeah, and it's not like it's not something that is always ongoing. Like a lot of times people feel it at certain points in their life. Mm-hmm. If not, they do feel it constantly, which is something more extreme. Yeah. But it's honestly just feeling like you're doubting yourself whenever you're doing something. A lot of the time it's work related or just like when you're given responsibilities and feel like you can't accomplish them.
Exactly. Like
and
goals.
succeed in them. So a lot of the time you doubt yourself, you feel like a fraud and you feel like inadequate in everything that you're doing.
Exactly. Even though there's no actual evidence of you performing poorly, it's like your mind almost playing games on you. Like there's no actual like concrete evidence. Like you can be doing amazing, but in your eye, it's like your perception of yourself.
Exactly.
Which is exactly like Kathy said. It's like the confidence and the doubt in yourself. But that's pretty much like what the definition is. Pretty like simple and clear.
Yeah. I also read that apparently it happens a lot of the times because your perception of others is not actually what's true. Because you might be overhyping someone else that you're comparing yourself to and stuff like that. So then you feel inadequate because of it.
Exactly.
And that's a lot of the times that's why people encounter imposter syndrome.
It's like you're comparing yourself to other people's like achievements or just the way they are, the way they work or whatever, and you like question yourself because of that.
Exactly.
Or you even perceive people super high, like exactly like you said.
Yeah,
like,
you put them on a pedestal
when it's not that the case. Like they're not like way higher. Not even like we're all equal at the end of the day.
And we all have our own unique strengths and stuff. So it's not a game of comparison when it comes to responsibilities.
Yeah, but I think also imposter syndrome probably like not that it. I feel like it increased with social media becoming more trendy because of the comparison factor. Yeah. Because like it's so hard to quiet that voice in your head. I wonder if there are people who don't feel it ever.
I don't think so.
No?
Because like I said before, it could be like a one-time thing, but you still experience
feel it. Yeah,
it's just feeling doubt when you want to do something and you want to accomplish something, but you're doubting yourself and you're doubting your capabilities.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Okay,
so I feel like it's pretty common.
Yeah, it's a very like normal thing, and most people have social media or experience social media, so it's more present because of that, I feel.
Yeah, because if you see like other people that are doing stuff that you want to do or like you feel like you can't do it because like it's impossible for yourself. Yeah. Or like you lack the resources, stuff like that. Actually, this relates to a book that I was reading. I think I mentioned it on the podcast already, but it's Everything is Figure-outable.
Oh yeah.
You finished it? No, I haven't finished it yet.
Yeah, I think I asked you the same thing last
I've been reading it for like 2 years.
No, it's okay.
But it like there was a whole chapter on how you can think that something is impossible, but it's not impossible. You're limiting yourself with all these excuses. So like you're saying like, oh, I don't have the resources to do it. Yeah. Well, then like figure out a way to get the resources.
It's almost because you feel like you're doubting yourself, so you don't want to fail. So you're like making excuses. So you don't even have the chance to get there or fail. Exactly. But then how can you know if you're gonna like? So it's like you're stopping yourself because you feel like you're not good enough.
Yeah, and there was another point that I read that a lot of people that encounter imposter syndrome avoid taking on additional responsibilities or like trying to get promotions because they feel like they can't do it.
Exactly. And like I think we even saw that sorry.
I know, it's okay.
it was saying how like they continue to do research on a certain it's like one of the types.
Yeah, it's one of the types.
Yeah, and you continue to research. I think it was like
you're procrastinating. Yeah.
Yes, just so that you don't have other tasks to do, so you can't like reach your goal necessarily or like fail
or can't. Yeah.
That's interesting. I feel like I do that.
So that's a good transition. So let's get into the types because I didn't know that there were different types.
Me neither. I was like, whoa.
I thought it's just like you doubted yourself and that's it.
That was like the extent of it, but it actually has like specific types.
Yeah, so there's 5 types. I'll start with the first one. Yeah. So the first one is called the expert. And basically, these type of people are never satisfied with a task until they know everything about it. So that's what Afi was saying. Exactly. They spend time researching it and trying to know everything and having all the knowledge about that specific task or that specific responsibility. Yeah. So much so that they never take on any other tasks or responsibilities because they're like, no, I need to perfect this before I can move on. I need to succeed in this before I can get anything else.
But it makes sense too because like perfection is unattainable. Like that's what people say, right? So perfectionists, they feel like it's never perfect probably. Exactly. So that stops you from actually doing the other tasks. Yeah. So you never actually have to get there. Yeah. But then you're disappointing yourself because you're a perfectionist. You're not perfecting the task that's that's weird.
And that's actually the next type, the perfectionist.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Wait. Oh, this one was the expert.
The expert is trying to be not a perfectionist, but like an expert in that task.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. So the perfectionist is basically what I kind of just explained. It's like having really, really high expectations and making them like they're almost like unachievable, but instead of focusing on what you're actually accomplishing, you focus on the things that you can't do. So that becomes like you kind of really shit on yourself. Yeah. Exactly, because you're not focusing on all the things that you actually accomplished.
And under the underlying consequences of oh my god, did you just hear what I said? Okay, wait.
We both can't talk today. We're trying to be too perfect.
The underlying consequences of having imposter syndrome is that you're always stressed, you always have anxiety over like doing the littlest things, or like if anyone asks you something, you get scared because you're like, oh, can I actually do this? And you
don't want to, exactly, because you don't believe in yourself, basically.
Exactly. Don't do that. Yeah, so that's an underlying theme with all the types. So the next type are natural geniuses. So they're people that can like learn quick. They master whatever is given to them really quickly, so that if they feel challenged or like if they can't catch on to something right away, they feel like they're incompetent.
Exactly. They're discouraged because it's not from their usual routine. Like they're usually they can grasp things quickly. Yeah. So then if something is like not the same way or not like their routine,
if it's not learning easy.
Exactly. Yeah. I guess they feel bad about themselves or like something they're not capable.
Exactly.
But really
they won't do it.
Exactly. But really it could just be that it is a more maybe difficult task, but that doesn't mean that you're less competent.
Yeah. They just have a hard time with being challenged because if they can't succeed right away, they think they failed at it. Yeah. And that's it. They won't like continuously try to figure it out.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It's the natural geniuses. It's an interesting name. No, but it's an interesting name. Okay, the next one is the soloist. So this is basically the type of person that really likes to work alone because they basically feel like a certain type of pressure from working in group settings, and they don't want to let other people down or are scared of like maybe getting critiqued and things like that. So they like to work on their own and take everything on their own and not ask for any help because maybe they feel as though they're comparing themselves as well to other people or comparing their achievements, or maybe they're gonna criticize the way they're doing something. Yeah. If that makes sense.
And it's also the other way around where they'll try to avoid helping others because they don't want to be asked to help with a task and that they can't actually help with, and then they're seen as incompetent or like less than, stuff like that. So they just avoid any interactions.
I see myself in that a bit because I feel like I want to figure out on my own before I like go with someone, just so I don't look like an idiot. Yeah. So, because I feel like sometimes it takes me time to like learn, so I don't want to seem like an idiot. So I'm like, hey, let me like absorb the information first, and then I'll look like presentable.
I feel that though. Even in school settings, when you're like scared to ask a question to the prof in front of the class. or like scared to answer a question. Yeah. I was always like scared to answer questions. So I'm like, what if I sound stupid?
Yeah. But then but that's because no one else said what you said. So you're like, oh, that probably means that like that's not the right answer, but it's just because they didn't think of it.
Yeah, but it's like, even if I was confident in my answer, I was scared. I still had that small doubt. You know, like especially in math classes, I was like, what if I say such a wrong answer? People are gonna think I'm like the dumb kid of the class. You know?
No, exactly. Yeah, no, I feel you. I feel like me too. I'm always like, I never speak in class, and I'm like, oh no, Afi, you have to like get involved so you could learn the material better. Yeah. And all these people are having discussions, but like
especially in university, it's intimidating.
Exactly. But I think the more you do it, the more you get used to it and like comfortable, and it just like exactly. I need to do that.
You need to get those participation marks.
Yo, for real. And it'll just help you at the end, and you're not just like staring at your screen. It's so passive when you're just staring at your screen.
Exactly.
I got so distracted today.
It's okay. Online school's not for everyone.
No, it is not.
Okay, so the last type are called superheroes, and they put a lot of effort into everything they're doing, so they're seen as workaholics, but because of it, they often experience like physical and mental burnout, which eventually influences all their relationships, so their relationships with their coworkers, their friends, their loved ones, everything, because they're just so...
putting a lot of effort to actually excel.
And they're so exhausted from it. Yeah. That's the key thing, that they just get burnt out and exhausted.
That's yeah, because you put in so much effort to actually like perform well.
Yeah. You're only focused on your goals, so that everything else like
I feel like I know people like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not you. I was thinking about someone else.
Honestly, sometimes I can get like this, which is bad, but I'm able to like catch myself really quick.
I feel like you learn like you do things well, but like in a quick manner, if that makes sense. Yeah, but you do put in effort throughout time. Put more effort, like you're consistent. Yeah, exactly.
Which sometimes can be a downfall.
I wonder if you can have multiple types of imposter syndromes in you.
For sure.
Right? Because a lot of them, like, I'm sure people have multiple ones, not just like you can identify to more than one.
Yeah, because it also happens at different points in your life. So like we said, it can happen in a school classroom. A lot of the times it happens when you're starting a new job, or especially if you're like going into the workforce after graduating. I know a lot of people that experience like myself included, that I was like, am I even gonna be good at this? Exactly. Like, am I gonna like know what I'm doing? Stuff like that. So you get those doubts. But then it can also happen like they said before, when you're trying to get a promotion, or like even if you're like you're picked to speak in a meeting or something, and you're like, oh, I hope I don't sound dumb. Like
stupid. Yeah, exactly.
Everyone experiences imposter syndrome.
That's a good point, that it can happen different. Like it could happen, like for example, you could feel maybe two types of imposter syndrome within the same day. Like let's say I'm at school doing a group project. Yeah. And like I don't want to seem like an idiot, so I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No,
I'm finished. I'm like
keep going.
For the viewers. But what I mean is, like, let's say you can experience like the expert and the perfectionist within the same day, but in different types of environments. Exactly. Like one at school, one at work, or something like that, or one at home in your personal life. So that makes sense.
Yeah, and it also doesn't have to be related to like something that's work or school, because like now that I think about it, if you're a lot of new mothers experience it, where they're like, oh, am I gonna be a good mother? Like, am I parenting properly? Like stuff like that. So it's just like doubting yourself at stuff that you shouldn't be doubting yourself, because it's like
exactly
a lot of it is just like, okay, you just need time to learn, and you need to give yourself the time to learn, or you just need to be confident in yourself that you're going to accomplish it.
Exactly. And then it roots a bit from comparison too, I feel like. Because like, let's say you took the mother example, it's like you're maybe comparing to your own mother, or like someone you know, or like
you know how some people, which I don't know why people do this, but they make comments about
how
you're parenting.
Yeah, but everyone has different, people need to understand, people have different techniques, people raise their children differently, so like don't go here trying to teach mothers.
Mind your business.
Yeah, especially if you're a first time mom, like of course you're learning your own method. Like it makes sense, So
unless they're doing something illegal, then
then we have to report it.
Anyway, so the next topic we wanted to touch on is why women, and especially women of color, feel imposter syndrome the most. So they're really impacted by it, and We found a number of different reasons. Okay, so the first thing we kind of thought of is the idea of the glass ceiling. Not the idea, it's a fact.
Yeah.
That basically women who are in the same position as men either get paid less or they can't progress the same way. They don't get the same promotions. They're just like, we can't pass the ceiling. We get stuck there, but men are like surpassing it every day.
There's always like a room for improvement for them. Yeah. Whereas women, it's like there's to a certain level they can actually like progress in their careers. Exactly. And then after that it's
I think like it's slowly getting better, but because we know of it, and especially us like that are entering the workforce, because we know of it, we try to work 10 times harder, but like a lot of the times we doubt where we can progress and how we can succeed because of it.
Yeah, like for example, like you'll see men doing less work than you and you putting in more effort, and they're like beating you, going high, getting these promotions. So of course you question yourself because like right away as a human being, your natural instinct is not to question the system because you put trust in it, right?
Yeah.
So you question yourself. You're like, you doubt yourself because you have credibility in the system. You're like, oh, there are rules, there's a structure, things are made fair. But when you grow up, you realize that no, things aren't made fair.
Yeah.
And the problem is actually the system and not you, and there's like flaws in the system.
Yeah,
it all comes
100%.
down to the system.
The system.
It's
the
always
system
the
is flawed.
Yeah. Exactly. That's why like I was telling Kathy before, but like women have always been, even like gender roles, let's say, like in society from a long time, like women's rights were always less than men. Women were always seen as like less intelligent and not capable of like leadership positions, etc. So of course when you go into that, if you're told your whole life that you're like, oh, you're less than this man over here just because he's a man, and like your brain capacity is less, of course you're gonna question yourself, which sucks.
Exactly. To tie in what Afi was saying, that a lot of women also overthink that they're underqualified or like they can't achieve that role just because, again, men are put on this pedestal and women aren't. And a lot of the times, I feel like women get passive comments sometimes that makes them doubt themselves.
Yeah.
Even if people don't realize that they're saying it.
Yeah.
I can't think of an example though, but like, you know what I mean?
What you mean. Kind of.
Like,
I don't know.
I'm trying to think of an example.
It's okay. I get it. It's because we don't realize that it's the stereotype. You think it's personal. Like if they're making a comment, you're not thinking like, oh, it's because like we're all like, because the thing is, I feel as though they always try to put you in a box, but people don't consciously realize that they're putting these like gender roles on you. They just think they're giving you like feedback or a comment, but usually it's like women get a certain type of comment, men get a certain type of comment, you know, and then you realize there's like a pattern. It's like, oh,
actually now that you say that, I can't remember where I read this, but I read one time that a lot of men's compliments to men are success oriented and women's is appearance oriented or like personality oriented. So it kind of makes us feel lesser than because we're just we're being complimented on like, oh, you put a smile on everyone's face when you walk into a room, blah blah blah. And then men are like,
your skill set.
Yeah. Men are like, wow, you brought this much money into like the company.
It's like the strategy and the actual.
Exactly.
That's so funny. You know what this makes me think of? Scarlett Johansson.
Oh.
You know the interviews and what was her Black Widow? Did she play Black Widow? Okay. They would ask her like one of the famous questions that goes around like social media is like, oh, what did you do to fit into that cat suit, or like what type of underwear did you wear?
That's so weird.
Like the interviewers are asking the one woman leading actress like, oh, what's your diet, and like what type of like undergarment are you wearing?
That's
and they're
so
asking
weird.
the men like about the actual role, like oh, how much like effort did you put into this, or like what was your training, not training in terms of like physical activity, but like acting training, you know? And she's an actress just as well, but a woman, but there's no difference.
So
and
then
you're not even asking her like,
exactly, you
think she doesn't have like acting skills, you know what I mean? Like she put in effort just as much as the men. So that just made me think of like interview.
But that's why most women like feel like they have to doubt themselves because of all these passive comments.
Yeah, but the funny thing is she was like, yo, what the heck, like you're asking these inappropriate questions at an interview, like what underwear I'm wearing.
There was also like sorry to interrupt you, but there was another interview, I don't know who it was, but they were asking like, oh, which man are you with?
Taylor Swift, or Rihanna, or wasn't it?
It was all of them. It's all of them.
I think it was Taylor Swift and Rihanna. Rihanna. I don't know, sometimes I say weird. So
I don't know. I'm not even going to doubt myself.
Don't compare the way you say it to me. But I think once it was Taylor Swift and once it was Rihanna, and they were like, oh, what man are you leaving with? And then they were like, I'm not leaving with no man. But there was even a Taylor's.
But it's like, why do interviewers feel the need to like, these women are successful for a reason,
making music,
but you're asking about the man.
You don't ask fucking Justin Bieber, what girl are you leaving with tonight? Well, because he's married, but like, not Hailey Bieber crying all over.
Oh my god, stop. Okay, no, we're not gonna talk about this.
Pop culture. That's number 2 another day.
Shit. Okay. But yeah. Wait, let's wrap that up before we go on a tangent.
I want to add something about you know how Scarlett Johansson, she was questioning and she was like, why the heck are you asking me this? But I feel like I wouldn't question it until she questioned it, because I don't realize that the questions are different. Like, because you're taught...
I think it depends on the question. Like, the underwear
if it was
question,
obvious,
like,
yeah, but then, like, sometimes I'm just like, okay, I'm watching an interview, and I don't always, consciously question it, which is, I have to learn to, like... But now that I know
programmed to think
you weren't aware of it, exactly, but now that I'm more aware, I'm like, oh, that was, like, sexist or whatever.
Yeah, 100%.
But this is more focused on, like, women of color, but basically, like, we were reading an article, and it was saying how a lot of women of color feel imposter syndrome because if you don't see successful women that look like you represented in the field that you're in or in the role that you're in, you're gonna think like, oh, because I come from this background and I can't succeed like this white male in this position, you know? So that's why it's very much linked to like women, because women are oppressed as well, but also like mostly women of color. But that was basically that, which I found interesting because I never looked at it that way. I never looked at it in terms of like because it has to do with systemic oppression. Yeah. So it was interesting how that literally ties into like everything.
Yeah, like, because a lot of like the generic successful jobs, they're very white male dominated. Yeah. So if you don't see, even if you're not a woman of color, just a woman in general, but like you're looking up to people and there's no role models for you. Exactly. Because there's no women in higher positions, stuff like that. What I like, actually, the place that I work, more than the majority of directors are all women. So it's easy to like see myself progressing in my career because of it. Because I'm like, oh wow, okay, the top boss is like a woman.
You can relate also more, obviously, compared to like a man. It's normal. Exactly. But okay, there was a quote that I read too that I found interesting, but I don't know if I want to read it word for word. But basically, they're saying like, for example, if there's a narrative like of the white man always succeeding and doing well, but let's say you're like, I don't know, a black or brown woman also doing well, you're doubting yourself because doubting yourself because people of, let's say, your color or your gender usually aren't portrayed, so you think they're not successful, or you're taught that like, oh, people like you or people of color are less educated, so you tend to doubt yourself because you're like, oh, I'm not supposed to be this successful or this good, so I can't type of thing, if that makes sense.
No, I don't know if I explained it. And it actually sparked something that I remember. I took a women's study class, like my first year of college, and the first thing she did was show us Sex and the City. Like we started watching the movie and I was like,
the way they're
like, I like the movie, like, so let me see. Then like at the end of the class, she's like, okay, I want you to tell me like what you noticed about it. And it was her first class, so like no one knew what to say. And then she's like, okay, it's showing 4 successful white skinny women. And a lot of media only shows women as white skinny being successful, and then if you're not that, so like right now I can think of like a handful of shows or movies that had women of color. So I can think of like Viola Davis, How to Get Away with Murder, Mindy Kaling, the Mindy Show, and then I still don't know her name, the girl from Revenge.
What is Revenge? Is it a fictional show or it's like a reality? No, not reality.
No, she was a lawyer also. I can't remember her name, but these are all women of color. But I think they're all either directed or produced by women of color. And that's the only reason why like they got produced and they got like pushed and stuff like that. Like if not, we would have just been watching TV shows and movies of white women that are skinny, and that's all you need to be successful. Because they barely work too in Sex and the City. Well, like
they're more like, aren't they wealthy? Most of them? Some are more middle class, I think. Yeah.
I will say I didn't watch the show, so I don't know like if they explained like how they got to where they got to, but like I can only think of 2 of them that are like really working. Yeah. But Sarah Jessica Parker, she's like a writer. She's exactly. Writer, but it's just like you just see her in fashion, you don't and like see, the labels and
they never
stuff
show
like
the actual work. Yeah. Like so the thing is like, okay, it's good. We're seeing women, but we need diversity in the women that we see. If we see the same type of woman, then you're just giving us the same energy here as like seeing a white man, you know? Because it's like not every woman is made the same. So I think that's important. And like you like you said, like you might think that having these women of color in lead roles in movies don't make a difference, but it does. Because when you see it, you're like, oh, I can do that. Because for example, let's say you're growing up and I don't know, like a person of color, and you've never seen someone do other things than what you're used to. Like for example, let's say like in your family, you always just saw the woman like I don't know, like being a teacher, let's say. Okay. But your dream was like always to like go into acting, but you've never seen any actual people of color in acting roles. Then you might not aim for that because you'll think like, oh, I'm in this like box, like it's not. You're like, oh, I can't. Yeah, it's not an option exactly. Yeah, we digressed a little. No, but it ties into imposter syndrome because of the fact that you don't see yourself and you're told, because by not seeing yourself, it's basically them saying that, oh,
it's impossible for you.
Exactly. And this isn't like a type of job for you. Your type of person can't do this.
Exactly.
And that's kind of sad.
It is sad.
Very sad.
But yeah, so that kind of sums up why women and women of color feel it the most.
Exactly.
So now we're going to just dive into how you can heal from imposter syndrome. So there's various ways. The first thing that I thought of, I actually wrote a blog post on this, so that's kind of what sparked this. Yeah, check it out if you want it, but you're gonna hear everything I have to say anyways. But the first thing that I thought of when healing from it was fake it till you make it, and that might seem strange. Yeah. To like think
not that it's strange.
Yeah, but it might seem strange because you're fighting like feeling like a fraud with being a fraud. But when you fake it till you make it, you're faking confidence in yourself and you're faking the ability to succeed, which in turn is going to actually help you succeed because you're like, instead of being like, oh, I can't, like, I don't know if I can do this, blah, blah, blah. Right away, you're like, no, I can do this. I could do this easy, blah, blah, blah. Let me get into it. Because then you'll train your mind to like be less afraid to do it.
Exactly. And it's the same, you're reversing what you were taught. The same way that you were told you can't do it or that you saw you can't do it by telling like, you know what I mean? Like, it's the only way. Like, how did you feel less confidence? Because people told you you can't do it. So what you have to do is you have to tell yourself that you can. Even if you don't believe it yet, you will eventually.
Exactly. And a little something to that is that even if you feel like nervous about something and you feel like you can't really you can't like put your full potential into it because you're fearing that you won't succeed or you feel like you're a little weak in that subject, you have to realize that there's people around you that are going to help you. Exactly. Your coworkers, your bosses, your managers are all there to help you.
And you don't have to take in like on everything individually or be like good at everything.
Don't be a soloist. Like you reach out for that help. Don't be tying in, you know.
Don't be a perfection. I think it also kind of ties into like the positive affirmations that we always I feel like say in our exactly that's how I'm like, let me tie it in because basically that's what you're doing. I even did this today. I was like telling myself, because I feel like my day wasn't going well, so I was like, no, Afi, you can do it. You got this. You are capable. You're intelligent. There's no reason you can't do it. So that positive affirmation, it's just like almost like a little self-meditation, self-love. It's the same thing as like telling yourself and like faking it till you make it. But when you say it out loud, you like tend to believe it more.
Yeah. So. And you're basically what you're doing is you're tricking your mind, because your mind adapts to whatever you're thinking. So if you're constantly thinking negatively and thinking like you're scared of failing, then that's all that's gonna come to you when you're feeling something. So if you're constantly saying like positive affirmations or like saying it out loud, writing it down, then your mind is gonna absorb all this positivity, and it's going to be portrayed in everything that you do.
Exactly. And you're unlearning the bad habits that you had previously.
Exactly.
So do that.
Yeah.
If it helps.
Exactly. And my tip on the positive affirmations is to take the time to write 3 things down. You can either do it weekly, every day if you want to, but just write 3 things down and put it in a spot that you know you're going to look at. And now every time that you look at it, say it out loud. Yeah. Read it and say it out loud.
Yeah.
Because when you read it, it's going to go into your mind once. When you say it out loud, it's going to go into your mind.
Energy. Exactly. Like, you have to exude the energy.
You have to feel confident while you're saying it.
You can't just be like, doo-doo-doo-doo. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It won't register. And also, consistency is key. Make sure to not do it like once every 3 months, because habits take time to unlearn. You gotta do it. Try to do it every day if you can, or like slowly, but like, consistency.
Exactly.
It's always key.
It's always key.
It's always key.
Okay, so the next mini tip that I had is to learn how to ground yourself. And a lot of the time when you're feeling imposter syndrome, you're starting to get anxious, you're starting to get stressed out by all the thoughts that are flooding your mind. So like, just take the time to close your eyes, take 5 seconds to breathe in, 5 seconds to breathe out, and do that like 5 times just to like calm yourself down, because really a lot of the times you're stressing yourself out for no reason,
and then it creates like physical reactions. Like I feel like I went through this today. I don't know why. You get heated, you just like everything starts going wrong. Yeah, and then you just feel like nauseous. Drink some cold water, close your eyes like Kathy said, take those deep breaths, like meditate, like a mini meditation.
Yeah, you can also do use a meditation app, or like YouTube has a lot of quick meditations. Just get something that's gonna work for you, that you can like catch yourself from floating away and like just
listen to you know what I've been doing recently?
What?
Listening to rain sounds to calm myself.
I love opening the window when it's raining.
Yes, that's why. But because when it's nice outside, I'm like, but I need like something calming. Even to study, I find it nice. But it kind of comes in with your like senses, I guess, because you're like listening to the rain, and that could like just not give you like, it helps in grounding yourself, which in the end will help with the confidence. Yeah. So it might not fix your imposter syndrome.
No, but it's going to calm you down, because it's going to be hard to try to fix it if you're already anxious about it.
It gets you out of your head, basically. Exactly. So it's just one step closer to like getting out of that mentality. So the next tip, which is like, we've said this before, but whenever you're going through like tough times, or you have like low self-esteem, ask for help. Like, don't go through it alone. It's really like you don't realize that people around you can actually like have a big impact on how you're feeling. And it could also be someone like a professional. If you don't feel comfortable like telling your family members, or you feel like they won't understand, or you feel as though you have like your imposter syndrome may be linked to like deeper trauma, which a lot of times it could be, maybe talking to a professional can help. But just voicing it and expressing it out loud to somebody and having that discussion, or like ranting sometimes, even like you don't need to go to that professional, you just want to let it out to your friend. That really helps. So just don't keep it bottled in, because you're gonna overthink. And you might need someone to reassure you sometimes and tell you the words that you can't tell yourself.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
And I think a lot of the time when you're experiencing imposter syndrome, you're very like, you're blowing it out of proportion, just because you're doubting yourself so much that you think like basically you can't do it anymore. Exactly. And I think like you just need to vent to someone, like vent to a loved one, and then you're gonna realize. I feel like a lot of the time when it happens to me and I say it to someone, I realize how not stupid. Like, I don't want to say you're stupid for thinking it, but like
how it's not necessarily true. Like, it's not true to who
exactly,
you are.
And it's not the reality. It's not the reality of the situation. So as you're saying it, you're starting to realize that, and then like whoever you're ranting to is gonna be like, okay, listen, like that.
They could like click you out of it a bit,
and they're gonna hype you up. They're gonna exactly what Afi said, like say what you need to hear and what you can't find in yourself at that very moment.
And like, need to hear, as in they're not lying to you, they're telling you what you can't see, which is the truth.
Exactly. Which is the actual reality.
Exactly. So it's nice, because like Kathy said, you get in your head sometimes and you can't look at an outside perspective. You're just looking at like, oh shit, I can't do this, I can't do that, and it's hard to get out sometimes, or it takes time. So friends, family, professionals, always
just
help.
reach out to someone.
Reach out.
The next little tip is write down your achievements. And a lot of the time, what's happening when you're experiencing this is you think you're a failure at life and you think you can't do anything else and you can't take on any new responsibilities. You can't take on this new job because I don't know what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. Like all these thoughts get into your head. Yeah. So what you're going to do, this is a mini exercise. You're going to take out a piece of paper. You're going to write down every accomplishment that you're proud of. And then you're going to remember that you're that bitch. You are, and you're going to remember how far you've come so far and how far you can progress in life.
Exactly. Because we always think of like imposter syndrome as thinking about the negative things and not the actual things we accomplished. So like writing that down and having it like written so you can see it really helps.
Yeah, and it also feels like it's a wall.
Yeah. Like
you can't go further than where you're already at. But then if you look at everything you've already done, you can see that like life is not over now. Exactly. You gotta continue and you're accomplish more things.
And be proud of it.
Yes.
You got this.
Yeah.
One other thing that like randomly I just thought about, I don't know why.
Yeah.
But if you have people around you that are toxic and that are emphasizing the insecurities that you have that aren't true. For example, if you have friends or family that are discouraging you, that make you feel worse and more let you have more imposter syndrome, cut them out.
Oh yeah.
Or
snip, you know what I say.
And if it's someone like close to you, for example, like a family member that you can't necessarily like, cut out, then express it to them. Like the words that you say give me trauma, or they create this imposter syndrome in me that I know I don't have, that I know isn't true. Sorry, not that I don't have. And it's not letting me move forward. So I need you to like be more encouraging and things because sometimes like people, just the words that they say could be discouraging and can make you like impact your imposter syndrome even more.
Sure.
So
for sure, it's a very good tip.
Yeah.
Communication.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so just to go on like on the, I don't want to say negative side, but kind of the negative side of the tip that I had just said about the accomplishments, it's time to write down all the negative thoughts that you're thinking. Take a random piece of paper, write down all the negative thoughts. And I got this from, again, the book, Everything is Figureoutable. And as soon as you finish writing it, look at it and rip it up. Like physically rip up the paper. And what you're doing is you're essentially pulling out the negative thoughts from your mind and then putting it into something tangible and physically destroying them. Yeah. So it's kind of like a metaphor in your mind to be like,
instead of carrying it around with you, it helps. You're like emptying it out.
Exactly. A weight's being lifted and you're physically destroying them so that they're not going to be anywhere near you anymore.
That's therapy.
That is therapy.
Like burn the paper.
We should do it.
Honestly, I think I'm going to do that.
Destroy it.
Yeah, and when you write it down, it's almost like you're making more space for other thoughts in your head because like just like positive how you do thoughts. Exactly, positive thoughts. But like for example, when you do a to-do list, you write it down because you can't keep track of things.
Exactly,
and
then you're overwhelmed because you think you have all these thoughts. You have all these thoughts in your head, and you're making it bigger than it needs to be.
Exactly. Yeah, this was kind of like being that bitch, but like remember who you actually are. This kind of comes into the other tips, like writing down your actual achievements and things you've actually done grounds you and makes you look at the reality. Because I feel like imposter syndrome, it's creating this like other dimension of you, which is like just the not even the negative stuff, because it's not actual negative stuff. It's stuff that you're blowing up.
Yeah, and it's your insecurities.
Exactly. So just remember who you are. Tell yourself, and remember not to compare yourself to other people. You have your own strengths, and maybe write down your like abilities as well, like all the things that you're actually good at, and don't compare yourself to other people's strengths, because like you don't know how they got there, and maybe they're good at certain things that you're not good at, but like vice versa, you could be good at a lot of things they're not good at. So there's always two sides of the picture.
There's always learning opportunities. Exactly. So don't think like if you're not good at it, you're never going to be good at it, because it's not the truth.
Exactly. There's always like room to learn. You're just as capable as any other human, which is also just like the point that I just said. But how Kathy and I were saying that you're part of the system, especially if you're a woman or a woman of color, that's trying to oppress you, and they're trying to make you think of yourself a certain way to keep you in this box so that you can't succeed over others. but in reality, like, you can, and it's not you that's flawed. It's like the actual system.
Yeah.
So
because it's also like the people that made this system are old white men. So they don't want to see anyone that doesn't look like them in positions of power.
It's favoring them.
Yeah. And
let's change that. So it's really like unlearning, and this kind of just ties into everything, writing things down, remembering that you're that bitch, and that you can do anything anyone else can do. So
period. I think with that, we can end the episode. I think like that was a really good point to end on, and just like, again, just remember that comparison will kill you. You need to catch on to any negative thoughts that you have, especially when it's towards like you succeeding.
Yeah.
And do any of these things that we just mentioned are going to help you. So like, be sure to like refer back to them, or like start practicing them right now. Like, especially like writing down your accomplishments, your positive affirmations, like those things you can do before you even feel this way.
Yeah.
So that you'll have it visible, and it'll help you avoid ever feeling doubtful about yourself.
Yeah, exactly. It makes you feel better once you start practicing. And obviously we gave you guys a lot of tips, so it could feel a bit overwhelming, which one do I do? But like, just try one out maybe, and then see which one you like the best, or try one out that speaks to you the most, and then you can incorporate little things when you become more aware of your imposter syndrome. You're like, okay, I'm gonna cut this person out because they're you're gonna do little steps to like improve that part of yourself and gain more confidence. So
yeah. And I want to emphasize once again that everyone goes through imposter syndrome and feels imposter syndrome at some point in their life.
Yeah.
So don't think that you're alone in this, and don't think that you're the only one feeling this, because you're not.
Exactly. And get off social media.
Yeah, take a social media. That's another tip. Take a social media break if you start feeling that way, because then you're just going to continue comparing yourself to everyone.
Exactly.
And like, a lot of Instagram is just unrealistic, so.
It's all the highlights of your life, but never so.
Exactly. Highlight reel. And with that, I think we can end the episode. Yay. So thank you guys for listening or watching wherever you're
you're doing.
Wherever you're doing this. But I hope you like this episode. Yeah. We try to keep more serious episodes short and sweet, so that we just get to the point. We did rant a little bit in between, but it's like, it's just the personality coming through. Exactly. But yeah, so hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on all the podcast platforms that you listen to. Follow us on Instagram at Wild Thoughts Pod, on TikTok at Wild Thoughts Pod, our individual Instagrams if you want to see. And other than that, leave a review on Facebook or Apple Podcasts, or just like in the in the comments of this video, or the comments of the post, like anywhere.
You want to send us a DM? Go ahead.
We love feedback. So like, if you have anything to say to us, say it to our face. Yeah. Oh my god, look how pretty the sky looks.
Oh, it's purple and orange.
Okay, we're gonna end this episode because like, we gotta go take a picture of the sunset.
Okay. Bye.
But yeah, so see you in the next episode. Bye.